Hello, and welcome to part 2 of my Cotic BFe build. In part 1 we had a really good detailed look around the frame. I'll pop a link for that above right now. In this episode, we're going to protect the paint of the frame before we start building it. I really like the colour this bike's come in and I want to keep it that way, so I'm going to figure out a way of protecting it. So, after doing a bit of research and asking people's opinions, I've settled on using an Invisiframe kit. Now these kits don't come in cheap at all. This kit was just over £80 included postage, but it is specifically cut and trimmed for the size of the bike frame you're fitting it to. So in this case, the kit is designed to fit the Cotic BFe in a large size. When you think about the cost of doing all the research and development to get the trim kit the right size for the right frame, makes the cost, I think, a fair price, especially considering the coverage. So, within the sturdy packing tube, what do you get? You get a sheet of pre-cut frame protection film, this blue squeegee, which is a very helpful tool, and a set of instructions and hints and tips to help you install the kit on your frame. Now, to make my life easier installing this frame kit, I'm gonna install an old seat post which I happen to have laying around. That way I don't have to clamp the frame and makes maneuvering the frame around whilst installing the kit a lot easier. Now, before you start installing the Invisiframe kit, you need to make sure your frame is spotlessly clean and degreased. You can use this using isopropyl alcohol or brake cleaner or a variety of methods, but yeah, first thing, make sure it's spotlessly clean and degreased. Next, you need to find a squirty bottle and make a solution of water with a tiny drop of Johnson's baby shampoo in it. This is used to spray onto the frame and help you slide and guide the Invisiframe protection film into place. So, as you can see, I'm starting with the driver's side chainstay, which I think was a bit of a mistake because it was one of the hardest tubes to attach the Invisiframe to, because there's lots of curvature to the tube and it's got dents and it bends. Yeah, so although the instructions start on the chainstay, I think it's the non-drive side chainstay. I'd advise starting on the least visible, most simple tube you can find on your bike. My next mistake was waiting too long between spraying the soap spray solution on a tube and peeling the transfer off and applying it. I should have reapplied some of the spray solution to the tube. It really helps guide and slide the film around on the tube. As you can see, it looks a bit dry at this point in time. One thing to note with the Invisiframe kit is it takes a long time to apply them to your frame. I think you should set aside 3 to 4 hours at least and do it in a good light area where you can really see what you're doing. With that said, I'm going to speed up these installation videos, show you how it all goes and make it a bit more entertaining and talk over as we go. So what you're aiming to do to install these films correctly is squeegee out all of the soap solution from behind the film. So you start at the center of the film and spread out and try to squeegee out the water out from the edge of the films. So you can use your fingers. I think fingers are easier on sort of really narrow tubes, and when you get to the fatter tubes, I think the little squeegee card works much better. And this is why it takes so long to apply the Invisiframe kit. It's not actually placing the film on the bike, it's squeegeeing out all the water from beneath them. It's a very long, tedious process. On the smaller diameter tubes, I definitely found it much more effective to use your fingers to try to squeegee out the water than the actual squeegee card. It's just much more easy to maneuver around and you don't catch edges. You can kind of keep working it out from the center out to the outside of the film, and it seemed way more effective. Of all the areas of the bike, the top of the seat stays I found the most tricky. The Invisiframe transfer at this stage has a little sort of serrated edge to allow it to conform to the tube shape, and it was just very tricky to stick down neatly, so it just required a lot of patience and time to work it into place. This next piece of film was one of my favourites, and it really goes to show how thorough this Invisiframe kit is. It's a little tiny piece of film for the little tube that runs between the seat stay and the chain stay to reinforce where the braking loads go in, and it just goes to show you how much detail that these Invisiframe people have really put into their kits. Moving on to the down tube next, and I feel this is the only disappointing piece of film of the entire kit, as it's split into 3 parts. There's a really large central piece which goes from the bottom bracket to near the top of the head tube. Then there's 2 extra pieces that go around the gusset of the head tube. I'm not entirely sure why it's this way. It could have been built in one piece, but I suspect there's some manufacturing limits, like the size of the sheet they can cut onto, or maybe their cutter can't do a tube so long, because the Cotic BFe Max does have a really long front center, so this tube is a really long tube. With the front center tubes, I definitely found the squeegee card quite effective. So using the squeegee card and a combination of fingers, I found like the best way to apply the film to the tube. With the main part of the down tube done, I moved on to these little extension pieces that wrap around the gusset. To try to make these look as neat as possible, I really butted them up tight against the piece of film that runs the main length down the down tube. This piece of film here is another piece that shows you the attention to detail that Invisiframe are putting into these kits. It's specifically cut to fit around these little seat tube extension, and this is going to change for each side of the Cotic BFe Max, so each kit's going to have a different size here. The piece of film for the top tube is one I really wanted to take care and attention on, so it's one of the very last ones I fitted, so I had maximum experience at fitting the film at this point, just because it's so visible when you're riding the bike to yourself and other people. So yeah, I think it turned out really good though. Again, it's been really cut neatly and it fits around the seat tube gusset really nicely, I think. The head tube piece of film is another nice piece. As you can see, there's a nice window to fit around the Cotic head tube logo. It's also got nice cuts to fit around where the top tube and down tube mitre to meet the head tube, so it's a fairly complicated piece, but it looks nice and works really well. After installation, I found that I had a few small bubbles of trapped water under the film that I didn't manage to squeegee out. To remove these, I used a sharp scalpel blade or pin to pop the surface of the film that easily allowed the water to escape. So, with the Invisiframe kit fitted, how do I feel? To be honest, I think it's still expensive, but probably just about quality enough to justify the cost. The coverage is very extensive. I didn't film every single piece of film I fitted to the bike, but as you can see from the shots, they cover the vast majority of the bicycle. The quality is very good, the fit and finish is very good, and from a distance you would not know there's any protection on the bike. I think it's still too early for me to recommend this kit, as I've no durability testing, as I haven't ridden the bike yet. But the time-consuming nature of installing this kit may make it more suitable for a very good enthusiast or prosumer. So at this stage, I'm going to reserve judgment of the kit for now. But that's it for part 2 of this project. I'll see you soon in part 3.